Hello, namaste everyone. Welcome to session 10, week 10 of habit adoption. And in this week, we are going to look at simplify. Um, One of the reasons I'm recording this is because I wanted to simplify my approach. I'll talk about it a little bit. I'm pre-recording this because yesterday was my wife's birthday. Tomorrow is Holi. So I've decided to simplify my life by taking a trip out of town. And hence, I'm pre-recording this so that you can see it whenever at your leisure. And Dinesh is also traveling from India to Dubai. So he can support you online if you have any questions. Otherwise, on the chat. Otherwise, we both will look at the question whenever you see this and then we can answer questions. Okay, so let me just dive into the content. So today we're going to look at today, as I said, we are in week 10. We are looking at content of simplify. So what does simplify mean? Both in terms of habit as well as life, we have lots of things to do. And this is one of the challenges I find all of us have because there are too much mental and physical clutter we have in terms of things to do. And habit is one more thing that we are taking on. And obviously, that doesn't mean that we are adding complexity to our life. Yes, in a way. But we talked about how to reduce what I call so-called bad habits which you don't want. And we are adding a good habit or habit that is enlivening us to the list. So there has to be something that needs to be done to simplify the whole thing. And the reason is because we have only certain amount of energy and time. And any distraction, any challenges that we add to it kind of saps our energy. And therefore, we need to make sure that what we do uh, in life as well as in habit is to create something that will add to our energy and make it move forward and reduce the time it takes for us to do something. This looks like a challenging task, maybe not, because I'm sure you've heard of this quote: simplicity lies on the other side of complexity. We are not talking about simpleton simplicity, but simplifying after understanding the complexity and complicatedness of life. And that's what we are talking about. Let me quickly take you through a couple of points so that you will understand. First one is when we think of simplify, we think of in terms of organizing our life or decluttering our life by having a couple of things to organize. Here we are not talking about that because this is not a regular habit forming program through the mind. We are trying to do the heart level. So what it means is that we are trying to optimize, which does not mean maximize and minimize. This may look slightly complicated, but stay with me for this. What we want to do is we want to maximize our utility or value that we get out of spending something, but we want to minimize the activities that we do to accomplish. For example, if you're adding a habit of walking 10,000 steps, obviously we want the health that or the health benefits that will come out of it. But if 10,000 steps is going to add one more extra 1 hour requirement on your time schedule, that will generally create unsustainability because sometimes you have other things that are going in life that will make it priority. So that's one of the reasons we are trying to do not just organization or organizing decluttering, which is what typically decluttering modes go take you into. We're trying to optimize. See how it is done. We talked in the second week, we talked about intention, and subsequently we have taken on the habit. Now I'm putting it together. So what I'm talking about is an idea of nudging the intention through deepening our understanding to get to the outcome. So the outcome that we want is healthy body and healthy mind. And the means that we are adopting is the 10,000 steps, for example, right? So the way in which we can nudge it is, this is called something called one thing now, one thing right now that you can do. Pick for your habit, what is one thing that you need to do today that will make it simple? Did you get it? Okay. So the way in which you can test this is, can you describe what is that one thing right now that you can do for your habit to make it successful? Have the courage and discipline to follow through with that description that you have given. By the way, it'll be better to describe it to some friend. And when you have that courage to follow through, typically you would need focus and attention to it. But beyond that, we also need something called taking a leap. What I mean by that is, instead of taking one step, if you take one steps, the return on that can be more than one step. It's like a hops jump kind of thing. Look for that leap that you can take, and that is what gives you a better outcome based on your intention. Let me give you one example. For me, initially I was resistant to the 10,000 steps. But later, what I did was I saw that I watch certain amount of educational content. I have certain other things I needed to do, which I spend my time on. When I'm doing that, if I try to connect walking with it, sometimes it makes it easier, like watching a podcast, listening to a podcast, and things like that. Find your own leap, describe it to somebody, have the courage then to include it in your life in a disciplined way with focus, practice it a little bit. Because when you do that, essentially what you are doing is taking the complexity of that habit and simplifying, and that is the gift that you will receive. So focus on one thing now. Other thing is, there is something called limiting operations. We don't want to add one more thing, and that is what I talked to you about, organizing versus optimizing. Look at this chart. We do a lot of things that are important and urgent. This is called Eisenhower matrix. And the important things is what we want to do, not necessarily things which are urgent. But sometimes you feel that important and urgent is what we need to, what gets our attention, right? So in this diagram, the green is important, but not necessarily urgent, but it needs you. And it is a regular task, right? And for example, taking care of your RTG, if you're talking about taking care of your baby, only most of the time you would need to be there. Sometimes occasionally you can leave her with the care of somebody else who's hired help or whatever. But if you have to go to a meeting which you need to schedule, you can prioritize and arrange for that help. And that's what I mean by it's one-off uh, and things that can be accommodated in your schedule. What you don't want to spend time on is that things which you don't need that can be delegated out or deleted from your list of things to do. This is what I mean by limit operations. I'll let you look at this diagram later on and then and tell me if you have any questions. There's one more box like that I'm going to introduce. It is called decision making. Decision making is another place where we get stuck. And that is one of the reasons I'm calling out both the operations as well as decisions. Decisions can be consequential decisions or irreversible decisions, right? And obviously, if it is reversible, then that will be better for us, because even if you make a wrong decision, you can kind of undo it and then redo it again. And that's why I'm trying to look at the green box again here, which is consequential things which are important. If it is not consequential, you can kind of ignore it. And if it is not reversible and not consequential, see if you can dump it, right? By quickly deciding, like, if you want to what to cook for the dinner, and if it is, as long as it's between two healthy choices, it doesn't matter whether you subscribe to this or that, because both of them are healthy. And this is how you can simplify. Try to see how you can stay in the green box, right? This is one idea. I'll share one more in the WhatsApp. You can take a look at it later. How do you remember this? I think the acronym ONELY is what I have used, which is optimize, nudge, limit, and yield. That is the ONELY, and do only one thing right now. This is what I'm using as an acronym for you too. see how you can make this as the simplest thing that you can do. The idea of simplifying should itself become a habit for you. The reason for that is, if you don't practice this, when you take on this and other new habits, it will slowly start building up complexity in your life. And what last thing we want is a successful habit only sticks with you if it is simple thing to do, right? If it is too complex, you'll say, whether it is eating healthy or whatever the habit that you've taken on, if it is too complicated, you will just say, yeah, it's a nice thing, but it's not for me, right? And therefore, I'm saying that how do you make it simple? Any habit that you take on, that is the first step. And similarly, look at the complexities in your life and see whether you can simplify them, whatever be that complexity. And that is what it takes practice, right? But if you practice it right, there is a significant payoff. And that is what I want you to encourage to do that. So with that said, I am going to pause here. We are at week 10. And if you have any questions, do let me know. But otherwise, we will take a look at it and then come back here. And obviously use WhatsApp as a way to ask any questions. We are, as I said, we are in week 9, week 10. And let me just bring up that piece also so that we can take a look at it and then close it out. Let me just share that. Yeah, so so we have 2 more weeks to go, which is end of this month and then next month for first session. We're going to look at how to stack habits, meaning if you have taken on one habit, you can add one more habits, and how to sustain it so that you can build on it by yourself. So this is where we are at home stretch. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat. Otherwise, I'll see you the next week. Hopefully, you're all following your habits. All the best.